the Tua Tagovailoa situation, obviously with the concussion protocols last week, prior to the Tua injury on Thursday, the concussion on Thursday, the Sunday that Tua, we felt like he was concussed against the Bills. I went and looked. 3 players entered the concussion protocol and were not allowed to return to a game that Sunday. Obviously, he was not one of those. He entered the protocols, cleared them, and then
he entered
the
back injury protocol.
The back injury protocol, right? We know that the NFL and the NFLPA are going to come out with some quote unquote enhanced protocols. There's going to be some tweaks to this, right? And it sounds like it's going to be if someone exhibits the loss of gross motor function out on the field during the game, they're done. They're just going to be done. Like, we're not going to play with this anymore. We're not going to go through the hoops. I bring this up because 12 players, 12 today in 8 games were benched in the concussion protocols. It went from 3 that Sunday that Tua was able to enter the Bills game to 12, including the Sunday night slate in which we see Cameron Brate, tight end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, appear to be not 100% right. Re-enters the game, right? He hits his head again, hits it on Chris Godwin's knee, and then at that point he disappears, and we find out he's concussed. He's in the protocols. The Giants game, they had Tyrod Taylor, and then they had a safety that went out. Well, Tyrod Taylor, Carl Cheffers pulls him out and says, "You're done." Like he pulled him out and took him off. Said you got to go through, medical evaluation. And the spotter, the NFL's concussion spotter, was the one who identified the safety and said, get him off the field. We'll see how this plays out. But I think once those tweaks come down the pipeline, this 12 is going to be fairly consistent, or somewhere in that neighborhood, fairly consistent moving forward in terms of the number of players who end up taking a bench because of concussion protocols. By the way, Shaquille Leonard, we saw All-Pro, we saw Pro Bowl level, Denzel Perryman.
Brian Hoyer.
2 quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor, Brian Hoyer.
The Brian Hoyer example kind of stood out to me because it seemed like Brian Hoyer is walking off the field and 5 minutes later, the Patriots, who don't want to talk about injuries, they're like, he's done. He's out. It was like, wow, they're not even messing around with this. That's the one that stuck out to me. You're right. The other examples are great. I mean, I know you said this, but we see this happen a lot, right? And if a couple of weeks it goes and we're all very sensitive towards this because what happened to Tua, and then by Halloween they kind of forget it and it kind of fades away. You think this is, do you think this is it? Do you think that they could stick with this? Because the NFL, their history with head injuries is bad. There's no way around that. And it reared, it's no pun intended, its ugly head again this week with the Tua thing. Do you think this really does stick? This is how we're going to see, hey, if you're stumbling around, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if Tua was stumbling around with a back injury, maybe he shouldn't be playing football.
Right.
That's still probably bad. But I just wonder if this actually has the ability to stick, other than just, hey, we're going to pay this lip service for a few weeks, and then again, but by November, everybody's going to forget about it.
To me, I think that for us to see that this is real and lasting, it has to happen in the playoffs. And what I mean by that is the environment in which you see a wide receiver 1 stumble, or quarterback stumble, or pass rushing, 15 sack defensive end appears to this gross motor function, the loss of gross loss of motor function issue. If it happens in a playoff game and they pull somebody, and then afterward that player's hot pissed, the team's pissed, everybody's upset, the fan base is ready to revolt, and then the league stands up and goes, no, this is how this works now. We're not going to prioritize the Super Bowl over X player who clearly to us fits the new description of this gross loss of motor function, which again, this is my own words. Let's see where the actual verbiage lands when this is ultimately tweaked. But I'd be curious to see what the teaching tools are, because you have to show spotters, here's what this looks like. You have to show refs, you have to show medical personnel. And if the teaching tool is the Bills tape, like, okay, when a guy does this, when he gets up and shakes his head,
obvious example.
If that's the threshold, if it's like, okay, guy's getting up, shaking his head, stumbles, falls to the ground, clearly is dizzy, is having problems, needs his teammates to hold him up. you're done. Like at that point, like if that's the threshold, I think a lot of us will be okay with it because a lot can fall under that. So, or at least not meet that standard.